Welcome back, Golly Vibes family. We are going to do something a bit different today because I seen a video pop up on my timeline of Mr. Gavin Newsom. Boy, oh boy. And we pretty much know the posse Gavin runs with. And it seems like whoever's in office is what causes a lot of different people to switch up in different kind of ways. I believe he's against men and women's sports now, but he wasn't a minute ago. And people are starting to ask him about the whole children changing who they are bit, right? So I just want to play one of those clips real quick. Check out what was said.
What about for your values? I mean, is 8 years old too young?
Yeah, I mean, look, I now that I have a 9-year-old, just became 9. Come on, man, I get it. So those are legit. You know, it's interesting. Just the issue of age. I haven't. It's interesting. As someone that's been so focused on equality broadly, LGBT rights, particularly gay marriage. Mm-hmm. The trans issue for me is also novel. It's over the last few years. I'm trying to understand as much as anyone else. Whole pronoun thing, trying to understand all of that. Well, that was like the hell. I mean, all that stuff. I get it.
So because you got a 9-year-old now, you can understand how it shouldn't be okay for a baby, okay? 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, they're pretty much considered babies, okay? So now you got a 9-year-old, you believe that now you can see how that may be a little off for a 9-year-old or 8-year-old to want to change who they are. It took you having a 9-year-old, really. How about you're a grown man? How about that? How about you should have common sense? How about that? How about that? Like, what some of these people really don't have common in their head. Y'all remember what Joe Biden said about an 8-year-old?
The idea that an 8-year-old child or a 10-year-old child decides, I decided I want to be transgender. That's what I think I'd like to be. It'll make my life a lot easier. There is no reason to suggest that there should be any right denied your daughter or daughters, whichever, if one or two.
Criminalizing sex changes on children and forever ending the lie that any child is trapped in the wrong body. This is a big lie. And our message to every child in America is that you are perfect exactly the way God made you.
Let me get this straight. Biden said, if an 8-year-old, decides out of nowhere one day, no matter that a lot of television can creep up in a child's mind when they're that age. They absorb different things like sponges. They want to be this, they want to be that. When they're 8 years old, okay? There's kids who want to be dinosaurs at 8 years old. You telling me at 8 years old, if a kid happens to say they want to be a different gender, you should get behind it fully? That's what you're telling me. Be like, okay. All right, let's do this. Let's get him a dress tomorrow, honey. Let's maybe dye his hair, paint his nails. Why don't you wait until this child grows up, becomes 18 years old, and then when they get out the house, they can do whatever. Life is on them. You've done what you were supposed to do as a parent. You've raised them as a true adult. Being a parent isn't only about being cool or being a friend. It's a guardian. It's protection. Whether your child likes it or not. Tough love is still love at the end of the day. And a lot of kids want to do whatever they want to do. They may see something, they may absorb it. They may start thinking like, wow, this may be me too. Who knows what's going on at these different schools? Who knows? You remember when Ron DeSantis said, yeah, we're banning puberty blockers? Remember what Joe Biden had to say about that?
Transgender kids is a really harder thing. What's going on in Florida is, as my mother would say, close to sinful. I mean, it's just terrible what they're doing. It's not like, you know, a kid
Banning blockers is close to sinful, is what Biden is saying.
wakes up one morning and says, you know, I decided I want to become a man, or I want to become a woman, or I want to change. I mean, what are they thinking about here? They're human beings. They love, they have feelings,
Boy,
they
oh
have
boy.
inclinations that are, I mean, it just to me is, I don't know, it's cruel. And the way we do it is we make sure we pass legislation like we passed on same-sex marriage. You mess with that, you're breaking the law, and you're going to be held accountable.
What are they thinking about here? They're human beings. You think human beings don't have off thoughts, Biden? And I'm saying this because there was a rocky road we were heading down, ladies and gentlemen. And it's still taking pliers to get out of people's minds. It was a rocky road.
Why should parents not know?
By the way, this is the same governor who said that children can have that operation without their parents knowing. That's why Elon Musk left California, because that's exactly what Elon Musk's son did. How was he able to do that? Because Governor Gavin Newsom passed the bill where kids can do that. So now he gets asked the question, why would you allow that?
Why should parents not know if their kids are transitioning at school?
It's a hell of a thing. You're talking about 1% of the population. Climate change, its impact 100% of the population wasn't even brought up. And we're talking about trans issues.
Here in California, this is an issue for you.
It's a big issue for parents. This is a front and center issue.
Why should parents not know?
It's the great, this is one of the greatest distractions, and it's classic. 1% of the population in the United States. These kids just want to live. These kids just want to live. And we're having a debate about trans issues at the Reagan Library. It's not to be ashamed.
He should be ashamed. These kids just want to live. Really. And you think they're not going to live if they don't get their way with that? Yeah, I remember when Ron DeSantis debated him and brought up this situation, and he said the same exact thing at the end.
This may be the biggest. In California, if you're a parent in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina, your minor child can go to California without your knowledge or without your consent and get hormone therapy, puberty blockers, and a sex change operation, all without you knowing or consenting. How in the heck is that honoring parents' rights when you're bringing people from out of state to go around their parents' backs and getting life-altering surgeries? That is radical. That is
Ron,
extreme.
these kids
that is an
just
assault
want
on
to live.
parents' rights.
You know what, Ron?
It's not for you to decide. It's for the parents to decide. And the parents do not want their kids going to these other things.
Let me go to a follow-up. Let me stay on a follow-up. Let's turn to the issue of education.
Where's your decency and humanity and grace when it comes
of
to
ripping somebody away
Gentlemen, please. Nobody can hear you.
That is wrong. That is wrong.
I'll tell you,
all right.
That should not stand in this country.
Let us turn, gentlemen, if I may, to the issue of education.
These kids just want to live, is what was said. The mind behind these wicked ones, ladies and gentlemen, is confusion. And a lot of them, I don't even know if they know they're being infiltrated. Well, some of them do. Some of them are just pawns for greater players. Interesting how the switch up is when different leaders get in office. You see how stone and hard he was when Biden was in office. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself talking about this type of stuff. They just want to live. They just want to live. Now, he's on some, like, I believe he's against men and women's sports now. And now you got him talking about, well, now I got a 9-year-old. I can see. Yeah. Puppets. 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 Depending on who's in office or what administration is leading? Puppets. You know who talked about this type of stuff? Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil used to be a puppet too. He used to be woke, but it's starting to seem like he woke up. Because he was talking about how it all started.
When they shut the schools down for 2 years, you may remember, at the time, when they shut it down for a couple of weeks, I said, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. You got to get your bearings here. When it went past a couple of weeks, you may remember, I came out and said, bad idea here. You don't want to do this because shutting this down is going to create more problems than the virus will ever create for these kids. I said it's going to create more, and everybody looked at me like I was some kind of heretic. Oh my God, they were saying, oh, he's crazy. What a nut. This conspiracy guy, absolutely nuts. And let me tell you who was involved in shutting this down. The Department of Education, CDC, and this is the same bunch that controls the statistics, the research and statistics that I just went over with you that said young people are at the highest levels of anxiety, depression, suicide, and loneliness since they've been keeping records. That didn't start with COVID. It started 10 years before COVID. So they had that information, Joe. They knew these kids, this population is more vulnerable than it's ever been. And they also knew that going to school, interacting with their peers, this was their lifeline. They knew they were the most vulnerable they had ever been, and that going to school was the lifeline that kept them going. And they shut those schools down for 2 years. And they also knew that that school is where the mandated reporters are. That's where the mandated reporters are who report sexual molestation, child abuse, all kinds of trauma to these kids. And when they shut it down, those referrals to Child Protective Services and Department of Child and Family Services dropped as much as 50% because those people didn't have their eyes on those kids anymore. What they did was send them home and lock them up with their abusers for 2 years with nobody to protect them. And you know what they said? They said, we did the best we could with what we knew at the time. No, you did not. You knew better than that. You knew that was not a risk to those children. You knew that that disease was not life-threatening to those healthy children, and you shut it down and sent them home and left them there for 2 years. Some of them locked up with their abusers, the rest of them dealing with anxiety, depression, loneliness, and suicide. You did it because you could, and you had no plan to reopen the schools, and that's where government's getting in the way of being healthy. That's where families are getting broken apart, and that pisses me off.
And it should. Why do you think they did it? What do you think the motivation behind keeping schools closed for that long was? Because it wasn't everywhere. It wasn't here, but it was in California.
Oh my God.
My kids went back to school pretty quick. And there was also one of the reasons why I wanted to be here. They had a completely different attitude about what you could and couldn't do during COVID. But why would they ever want schools to be shut for 2 years? Like, what's the motivation behind it?
Well, and it wasn't just schools. I mean, they wiped out thousands of family businesses that had been in business 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Most of which never came back. They operated on such a small margin. Mm-hmm. They're wiped out forever.
Yeah. So many, at one point in time, was 70% of Los Angeles restaurants.
Yeah. And then they spent $5.5 trillion counting stimulus checks, unemployment, extended unemployment benefits, $4.4 trillion of which went into savings and checkings account, which means they didn't need it. And then when they did spend it, they spent some of it on rent and groceries, the first $1.1 trillion of it. The rest of it went into savings and checking. So they weren't living on it. They were saving it, holding on to it, right? So it wasn't necessarily needed. I think at the time, if you're a hammer, you got a new hammer, everything looks like a nail. They had this power. And here's the problem. Our lives are controlled too much by people that weren't elected. These were bureaucrats that got appointed into positions. So who are they accountable to? We didn't elect the head of this agency or the head of that agency. They just got put in that position. And so they shut things down and changed this economy forever. And those kids that went through that, they lost, a year of learning? Some of it's been made back, but they were behind to begin with.
And what are the long-term consequences of that?
Well, the pediatric epidemiologists suggest that millions of years of life have been lost. And I'll tell you why. because they don't close the achievement gap educationally, which means they don't do as well in school, so they don't get as good at jobs, and the more blue-collar jobs are riskier, because they're working with their hands, they're working in places where they're more inclined to get injured or killed on the job. They have poorer benefits in lesser jobs, so diseases get diagnosed more slowly, and so they get treated later in the disease progression, which means that there's a higher mortality rate. And so that shaves
more years
off. And if you've got somewhere between 50 and 55 million kids in the public school system, and however many of them were affected by this, do the math. It doesn't take shaving very many years off at the end of life to, I've seen estimates anywhere from 5.5 million to 10 million years of lives lost by the fact that they won't have the achievement that they might have had otherwise. And there are some efforts being made to close the gap, but not enough, and the gaps haven't been closed. Right now, 30% of fifth graders and about 30% of eighth graders can't read at the most basic level. 19% of high school graduates can't read at the most basic level. But yet they get progressed on because they get paid if they go to the next grade level.
Interesting enough, you guys know how everything was shut down. Then it, got open, right? If you really think about it, it was like they were trying to bring in new life. What I mean by that, especially with the kids, they was trying to bring in new books that were inappropriate. They're trying to bring in new people reading these books, new people in school, new flags around the classroom, new agendas, new lessons, learning new things. You can be, you are who you're not a boy, you're not a girl. Oh, okay. Then you don't have to be either one. That's not education. That's brainwashing. That's indoctrination. Now, what do you think they were being indoctrinated with? The enemy's truth, which is confusion. Confusion causes separation away from God. There's no unity. Fighting for unity, that's actually confusion and separation, is what they lead you. They lead you to believe that you're fighting for unity. They lead you to believe that you're fighting for truth. They lead you to believe that you're fighting for what's good. But in all actuality, it's all lies. That's the scary part. Especially when you see people actually fighting for it. There's people who are marching in different protests and have no idea why they're there. But there's been paid activists to come out and destroy cities and destroy property. Then you got different people doing it. Don't even realize why they're doing it. There's such thing as a peaceful protest. But what we've been seeing is not that. It's destruction. That's what it is. So, I appreciate that things are getting better. I mean, just the bill saying that we had only 2 genders in general is, can't believe we had it past that, but it's a step in the right direction. Amen. Let me know what you guys think about the video. Pray for the children. Pray for the youth. Amen. God bless. Shalom.